A little bit surprising update. I mean, the timing of the update was a little bit surprising.
So I would rather say that Next 15 is not a revolution, it's like evolution.
So as you mentioned, this is the first, I would say, of many breaking changes that are coming with the new version of Next.
Hello everybody, welcome to the NextGen Web Podcast. In today's episode we have some huge news. We have the Next 15 version. We have some breaking changes. So we want to bring you some insights. We're gonna go together and through the docs and just see what do we have in the new version of Next 15. As always, if you like this content, please feel free to like, subscribe and leave the feedback in the comments. So I guess we can start off the new episode. So Philip, how have you been? Any exciting updates, some new tools, new products?
First of all, hello everybody. Nice to be here again. We have an interesting episode, I would say. Next 15, a little bit surprising update. I mean, the timing of the update was a little bit surprising for me at least. Yeah, from my side, I think there are no new updates about my side projects or other stuff like that. But I think the one topic worth mentioning is the recent viral website MacMaster parts, which is exactly. Like currently a very popular topic on X/old Twitter. So we have a website that is built with pure vanilla JS and HTML, and it's blazing fast. And we have some pretty interesting prefetching ideas there on hover, and overall pretty, I would say, aggressive optimization techniques, which is kind of rare for sites like that, but it's an interesting example. And we had follow-up about this from Vercel with recreation of this website in Next.js, which is first of all a showcase of how fast Next can be, and second of all, it's I would say it's like a point of learning for developers that would like to level up their performance optimization skills, because the whole project is open source. So we can go to GitHub and look for any parts of code that are interesting to us. And one thing worth mentioning is that this website was built with the help of V0, and all of the products are AI generated and with styling from ShadCN. So these are the tools that are being commented by us very often. And as you can see, you can create a pretty interesting website, useful and fast with such toolkit. So yeah, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, obviously the dev behind the website just took care of squeezing every millisecond of performance there. Like you can tell that the site, when we tell you that it's blazingly fast, that's true basically. So as you mentioned before, they did some performance optimization techniques, such as prefetching of the products on the product hover, which you can basically recall from Next features. Mm-hmm. So that's cool to kind of have the, you can see how the kind of the vanilla JS approach also have, the usage in the more modern way to build the applications. And also, as you said before, basically the site went viral. Like everybody on X was basically talking about it and how blazingly fast it is. So the Next.js team obviously recreated the website with some more modern approach. And yeah, you can just go check it out by yourself and just click through the site and see how fast it works. It's very cool. And also, I'm pretty sure it's open source, the Next.js rebuild. So I guess if you need some like performance benchmark and maybe just some insights straight in the code to see how things are done, I would say just go for it and just see how the project is done. I think it's a big valuable insight for performance optimization. So yeah, I think that's one of the hottest topics right now, besides the Next 15 update, of course. So the main topic of today's podcast. So I would rather say that Next 15 is not a revolution, it's like evolution. So we have quite a lot of breaking changes. So maybe we can briefly just go through the changes one by one and just provide some insights on each of the change we have.
Sure.
Also, one thing that is very helpful for us when migrating from the previous version of the Next, currently the Next 15 also have the Next Codemod, basically, I think that's the proper way to pronounce it, which helps you to just migrate to the new version much faster. I haven't tried it yet. I don't know if you did, but like it's an update from like 1 day ago, so probably none of us had the chance to just to see how it's done in the practice yet. But it's looking very promising.
I wasn't using it in like a large-scale project yet. I only had time to do some peeking around with it with some small, like on-the-fly generated projects, and it looks good. I think this is really helpful because sometimes we have large projects that are maintained through several versions of Next. And React, and basically it will make the whole process a lot faster and less painful for developers. Like in the previous months, I had some cases where I was updating larger projects to the newer Next.js versions, and such Codemod will be very helpful.
Yeah, sure. So that would be the first kind of the bullet point of the update. So going further with the list, we have the first breaking change. So the first breaking change is basically the async request APIs. So in the new Next 15 version, for example, when you are importing the cookies from Next headers, in the new version, it's going to be async. Which is completely different behavior from the previous version. And obviously it goes for data such as headers, such as cookies or params. All of them are going to be asynchronous in the new Next 15 version.
Right, so as you mentioned, this is the first, I would say, of many breaking changes that are coming with the new version of Next. The whole async request APIs update, I think it's interesting to see how Vercel shapes the future of Next.js. I don't have any strong opinions right now about this. I think we will need to take some time and see as a developer community to see how that goes, what is the direction and future of such changes. As you probably know too, some of these changes can't be really judged at the beginning of them. Right after the update, we need to have some time to get used to this and see how that goes. But I think it's interesting, and yeah, we'll see about that. It's a new approach for all of these APIs, and I think Vercel is cooking something for us with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I've heard some insights that the whole like kind of async change is going to be like kind of the part of a major shift on how we cache in Next.js. So obviously in Next 15 we also have some breaking changes in cache and how are we going to specify if the route is being cached or not. But also I've heard some insights that basically the whole marking the all of these APIs as async is also going to set a ground for like some major changes and some possible directives. We've heard some rumors about stuff like use cache. I mean, like it's not official yet, but obviously we can tell that the Next.js team is cooking something here, and it's going to be a part of the major change in the future. I've heard some opinions that also just marking the component as async, just basically is going to turn it into the dynamic as default. Basically we're gonna see how it turns out in the future. So next up, we basically said it today a few times. We have some changes in caching. Some changes may be little to say because we have basically major changes here. So before, Next.js was known for very aggressive caching, and the aggressive caching was being made by default. So you as a developer, when choosing the APIs, for example, if you were using the search params, or you were using some kind of cookies in the server component, you were basically opting into dynamic site rendering. And basically right now, none of the cache is being to set as default. We have to specify what is going to be cached or not. So that's a big change here.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, this is a big change. If it's good or not, I think it's pretty much comes down to what opinions the developers have, because some of the people would like to have more granular control over caching. Some of the people would like to have this out of the box by default. So I think this is the case. I know that many people wanted to disable caching by default in get routes and all pages, to not have this aggressive approach with caching. For me, that wasn't such a big deal. I think I got used to it. But one thing that is worth mentioning with this is that the router cache on the client side is no longer caching page components by default, which is helpful in several cases, such as sign-up views, for example. So I believe this will lead to developers' need for more knowledge about caching, which is overall good. All of us are trying to be as much informed as possible. So I guess this will be a positive change, and gives us more control, more, I would say, we have to know what we are doing with cache.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, before, you were having kind of a black box. So basically, you were using some APIs, some pages were cached, some pages were not, but you were not explicitly just telling Next, most of the times basically, what to cache or what not to cache. And the shift here would be for devs to be more aware of caching. And in my opinion, I think that's a good change, because if you were not aware of some caching behaviors on the site, it could lead to some weird bugs that were hard to track basically. So just being more aware of where are you using the cache and in what specific way, I think that's a good shift. And also, if you guys don't have the deeper knowledge of caching, we strongly encourage you to check out our episode on caching. We did some deep dive there. The episode is still up to date, even though we have the new version. The caching mechanisms basically stay the same. So make sure to check it out, because in our opinion, if you are building Next.js on enterprise level, having a deep knowledge of caching is pretty much vital. Especially if you're optimizing for every millisecond of performance, just having the good knowledge here is crucial. So yeah, as you mentioned before, the client router cache is no longer being cached by default. So we have some interesting changes here. As far as I know, the shift in caching behavior here, like most of the people say that's a good change. The comments are rather positive. And also before, the view on the caching in Next was like it's a big black box where it's also very complex. We have 4 layers of cache, so it was pretty hard to understand sometimes. So yeah, I think that's a good shift for sure. And moving on, we have next huge change. So we are going to leverage the React 19 version.
Yeah, React 19 still in release candidate version.
Exactly.
But as Vercel Next.js team mentioned, the cooperation with React team gave them confidence that this version is already battle tested and there will be no issues with breaking changes, and they adopted the React 19 RC version for Next 15, which is, I think, a huge change with the whole React compiler thing. The one also thing worth mentioning is again the Codemod we mentioned, which will be helpful with upgrading to the new React version. But we also have reversed support for React 18 and Pages router for older versions of Next.js, which is also nice because there are still a lot of websites that are going through the more legacy versions. So the continuous support for that is a cool thing. But overall, what do you think about React 19?
Yeah, basically the good thing you mentioned here is the backward compatibility with React 18 and the Pages router. So let's not forget that some of the production sites that are being deployed right now, not all of them are on the app router, so having the support for the Pages router is very important as well. So here the big shift, obviously we have the React compiler. For the audience, if you're not familiar with the React compiler, basically what it does, it's supposed to reduce the amount of manual optimization with hooks like useMemo or useCallback. The React compiler is supposed to take care of these optimizations for you. So that's a big change for sure. As we discussed in some previous episodes, the React compiler, as it was in the experimental phase, it wasn't perfect yet. As for now, as we are recording the episode, I believe it is in the beta version already. Correct
yes.
me if I'm wrong.
Yes, that's true.
Obviously we're gonna get some improvements there. And yeah, it's kind of interesting because like in the caching, you have the kind of the different shift because you are supposed to, manually define everything by yourself. And on the other hand, in the React compiler, you are going to have some of the optimizations by default. So we have like some kind of two approaches here. Very interesting how it's going to turn out in production apps, especially the automatic handling of for example, the useMemo and the useCallback. Yeah, we're gonna see how it turns out in the future.
Mm-hmm. Also, one thing I would like to mention with this like direction shift differences between caching and optimization techniques, I think the issue there was that a lot of people overused memoization techniques, because with caching you can see results pretty quickly. For example, if you cache something that shouldn't supposed to be cached, you will have stale data and you see it and you can change it. But with over usage of memoization techniques, you cannot really see the result with your own eyes that easily, because it's deep somewhere in the resources of your application. So I think it's a logical change. And overall, I believe React compiler also codename React Forget, which is kind of auto-explaining what are we going with. It's a good change, and I really support that.
Yeah, that's a great take. I think we can slowly move to next big improvement. So pretty much every Next.js dev at least once encountered the weird error, which is the hydration error. So I'm pretty sure most of the times the issue came from some kind of date-related issues here. So basically, we have a mismatch on what is being rendered on the server and on the client. And the error messages before were not that helpful, to be honest. I mean, you didn't have the exact place in the code where the issue occurred. So debugging these type of issues was pretty painful, to be honest.
Yeah, especially in large code bases.
Yeah, that's true. So I would say this is a big, good change for debugging. It's going to be much easier to track the issues we have. Basically, right now, with the big shift towards more the hybrid approach with server and the client, having good debugging for the hydration errors, I think that's vital for Next.js development.
Yeah, that seems great. And yeah, I remember many times this hydration error were pain to debug. You had to know the code base pretty extensively to pinpoint the area where this bug is appearing. So yeah, that is. I would say a lot of these next 15 updates are, I would label them as quality of life improvements.
Yeah, the developer experience improvements.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Talking about the developer experience improvements, we have the next big thing, which is the Turbopack Dev. I'm very excited for it personally because, to be honest, developer experience on Next, especially if you have some larger project, in the development mode was not as efficient as I would like to for it to be. So having the Turbopack here as our savior for development and basically speeding up everything, starting from the local server startup, the fast refresh. So according to the docs, we have just a quick mention here. On the local server startup, we have the 76.7 faster improvements. On the fast refresh, we have 96.3, which is pretty huge. So excited how it is going to turn out in some bigger enterprise projects.
Yeah, so with smaller projects, there is no much difference between using and not using Turbopack, but for larger enterprise-grade project, it's a great help, because sometimes when you are waiting few minutes for every starting of your local development server, it can be painful when you multiply it by the times you need to start this server. So during the course of the day, when you are like turning it off because you are, for example, doing something with Git or anything like that, you just need to restart it. It can get painful. So the Turbopack Dev is really helpful. With the first iterations of this, the performance wasn't there yet, as we mentioned in our previous episodes, but right now there were some changes and improvements for that. And I think this will be a great addition to any bigger Next.js code base.
Yeah, exactly. So talking about the developer experience improvements, we have one more thing here, which kind of seems to be a small change, but hopefully it is going to just kind of create a new path of developing some tools for us for debugging the Next.js websites. So I'm talking about the static route indicator, which basically is just a small chip which is going to tell you in development mode that the specific route is statically rendered. So that's obviously helpful for debugging. And to be honest, one more thing I would like to see in the future in the next releases, for me, would be some kind of dev tools that would help you debug some more complex issues. So if you are basically familiar with tools like Tanstack Query, for example, which also took responsibility for caching in the SPA apps in React. What was very cool for developer experience there was the development tools. So basically you can inspect the cache, what data was stale, the refresh times. So basically some kind of dev tools for us, for example, for debugging some caching issues or some rendering strategies. As we are introducing the new strategies such as the partial pre-rendering, I think that these tools would be very helpful for us developers.
For sure. So the whole static route indicator, it's a great, I would say, sign of where the whole observability topic in Next is going. Good news for you, Vercel announced that it will be a lot more complex with that. There will be a dedicated DevTools set for Next.js, which is great. It will be really helpful to see on the fly if the page is static, if it's dynamic, because sometimes when you are getting into a new code base and you are not yet familiar with everything, it will be just easier to know where you're at. So yeah, it may seem like a not big change, but overall it's helpful. It's helpful.
Yeah, for sure. So next thing, we are having the unstable after. So here maybe just to give some real world scenarios for the usage. So imagine a situation where we want to log some things, or we have some, for example, some logging with Sentry, with Datadog, with any tool. So basically, what after is the experimental API that allows you to schedule work after the response has finished streaming. So basically, it's very helpful for stuff, as I said before, for example, for logging, for some kind of analytics that are not crucial for the user, so they don't have to be blocking. So the usage of after here could be very beneficial for example, analytics here, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So as we mentioned with the static route indicator and right now with the after API, we are seeing the shift with Vercel and Next.js towards more developer experience heavy approach, even more developer experience, because one of the great things about Next is that the developer experience is good out of the box. So we are seeing improvements in that area. It will be helpful mostly like when you are scaling your project. So the project and code base is getting bigger. It's always harder to catch any changes, logs, monitoring, and all of that stuff. So things like that, they are really helpful. It will probably be best working on Vercel, but we'll see how that also goes with self-deployment methods.
Yeah, exactly. So with the conversation about the monitoring of performance and the logging, obviously we can't miss out on the Instrumentation.js, which is now stable. So the cool news is that Next.js is collaborating with Sentry, just to provide the best possible logging. Also the new on-request error hook that can be used to capture the errors and provide the best logs inside. So if you haven't used the Instrumentation.js before, basically we are introducing the libraries like OpenTelemetry here, just to have the better understanding of what is happening in our app. So especially if you're having a large user base app on production, the vital thing there would be having a good understanding of the logs and just overall monitoring of the issues that are appearing there. Instrumentation.js being stable for sure is a big step towards having the good insights on what is going on in the production app. I think we can move to the next change, which would be the
form components.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting that they are also adding such. I would say it's a big change because we are gaining a brand new component which is extending the native HTML form tag. I didn't have the time to like deep dive into this. How does it look like? How does it work in a real world application? As the update was being announced yesterday. But I believe this will be helpful when it comes to any form integrations, and as we saw with Next.js and image optimization, it solved a lot of bottlenecks and pain points for developers. I think this will be the same with forms. Maybe you have some more insights on that?
Yeah, I think we can bring up the code example here on the screen. So what we have here is, I would say, some that simple code, which is very nice and very clear to read, which is very important. So we are having the form component imported from Next form. And as you can see here, we have the action to go to the search page. Also, we have some query params. And basically before, to handle such form submits and also include performance optimization such as prefetching here would result in some kind of boilerplate code and just introducing some kind of logic just to handle that. So having just looking by the code example, it works very promising for me.
Yeah, this solves a lot of boilerplate creation, and overall it's another quality of life developer experience update that we are getting from Vercel.
Yeah, sure, and we can also read in the docs that having the form in the view is going to prefetch the layout and the loading UI, which is also helpful for just the optimizing of the performance and loading here. I think we can move on to some TypeScript support. Mm-hmm. So finally we have the Next.config.ts, which is going to be very helpful. I think also Next.config is going to be more and more important in the future in Next. It's not gonna be some kind of file that you just set it and forget it and just never look at it. I think it's going to be more and more important. So having TypeScript support there, and also type safety, especially if we are going to have a lot of options there, just having the autocomplete and type safety is going to be huge, actually.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, this will be helpful with things like feature flags, for example, environmental variables. So it will be easy to autocomplete and type save our next config. Not a lot to talk about here, but overall it's a good change. Like
pretty self-explanatory. Yeah.
Maybe small, but it's a positive change.
Yeah, I mean the small changes usually are just the most powerful one. So so that's good. We have the TypeScript support there, and kind of moving away from Vercel, we have some improvements for self-hosting. We had some opinions that Next.js, basically outside of Vercel, was pretty hard to self-host. You had to take care of just a bunch of things to ensure we have the performance optimizations that we would have out of the box on Vercel. But I think that's a good approach that Next.js is not trying to like vendor lock you into Vercel. So we have some guidelines also. I think that like a week ago, from the date we are recording right now, Lee Robb also recorded the whole tutorial on how to host Next.js on a VPS, which is very cool as well. Very interesting topic. So the improvements here Also, I think that are a good, like just a step in the right direction in the Next.js world.
Right. So we had some allegations on X that Vercel is really trying to force us to use them as a hosting platform every time we work with Next. And there are issues with self-hosting it, for example, with AWS or other methods of self-hosting. So it's good that Vercel is coming, like receiving this feedback and trying to make some good things about it. The whole tutorial from Lee Robb, I think at the beginning the whole self-deployment for Next.js was kind of a black box. Like you could do this, but you are on your own and you have to work some ninja hacks and magic to actually make it work, especially with things like image optimization and stuff like that. So it was hard to like make it work on different services than Vercel. And right now this topic is getting more and more popular, and there are more ways to actually self-host Next.js, and even we have tutorials from official Next.js maintainers. So I think it's a good thing. It's always nice to have some competition because it makes us work harder and make better products.
Yeah, for sure. So next up, we have some next improvements. We have some security enhancements in the server actions. So just to do a quick summary here, we have some dead code elimination, and also we have the secure action IDs. So basically, you can think of server actions as kind of the API endpoints that are being exposed to the client. So additional security checks here are vital for me. Also, we are going to record a whole episode on security and how you can think about security in Next.js. And I think that's a good approach here. And especially that basically the server actions are going to be, at the end of the day, the endpoints exposed to the client, basically.
Yeah, that's right. So also it's not a big deal, I would say, but it's always good to have the more secure application, the better, especially if this is done out of the box. So yeah, it's hard to say negative things about such updates, I would say.
Yeah, sure. So further on, we have some also cool stuff. We have the optimizing bundling of external packages, which is now stable. We also have the ESLint 9 support. But what is also very important for me, especially if you are taking advantage of, for example, some free tiers in, I don't know, maybe OpenAI APIs. If you were using the development mode before, we were not reusing the fetch responses from previous renders. So if you are basically testing some kind of API from OpenAI, and you are just making some small changes in the UI, basically the re-rendering of this page would cause it to refetch the data. So you can basically burn your all of the free tokens in
all of our credits are gone.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a very good change. Also, so one thing could be just not having the extensive API usage, and on the other hand, basically. Is the performance you get with reusing the fetch responses on the re-renders of the component.
Yeah. So besides that, we also have some performance improvements for cold starting our applications and faster static generation for our app router views. Maybe I would say, like app router and pages are different things. I don't want anyone to eat me here about my words. So yeah, we have faster static generation for the app router. There is still support for pages, as we mentioned before, but it will be beneficial to transform our applications into app router when the time is right for us, so when we are ready, because we don't know how long this support will continue, to be honest. It is right now, but will it be 3 versions later? We don't know that. So it will be beneficial for our applications, for the performance of our applications, to update it sooner or later. And yeah, I think that's all from my side about Next 15.
Yeah, sure. We have some minor updates, some breaking changes also in the docs. So obviously we won't cover all of them because the list goes on and on. So we encourage you guys to go to the Next blog and check out the 15 release by yourself. Also, at the date we are recording this episode, tomorrow we have the NextConf,
Yes.
which is also going to be very interesting. I guess we are going to also cover the NextConf in a separate episode. So if you don't have time to watch the whole conference, make sure to tune in and see our insights and just the summary of the conference.
Sure.
We are very interested in your opinions about the Next 15 release. So make sure to give your feedback in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching. If you like this episode, please feel free to like, subscribe, and see you in the next one.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, see you.